So we talked there about Scott Steiner's glorious final run in the WWE, and he then went to where every former WWE star can find a home, TNA Wrestling, which is now Impact Wrestling, but TNA is the glory days. So this is where really meme Steiner starts to exist. And this was the fun part of preparing for this episode, was basically just sending clips back and forth of Steiner being crazy. The most famous one, of course, is the Scott Steiner math, which was before a triple threat match with Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. Scott Steiner gave probably the greatest promo ever done. I'll read it out, but just imagine this being shouted by a very muscly man. So my brother is a big fan of Kevin Nash, big daddy cool, and he says what he likes about him is Kevin Nash is probably the first guy to realise you don't need to shout and scream all your promos. Scott Steiner did not learn that lesson, and he came out with this. They say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Samoa Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you've got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak. Is it genetics? And I'm not normal. So you've got a 25% at best at beat me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix. The chances of winning drastic go down. See the three-way at Sacrifice? You got a 33 1/3 chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not going to even try. So, Samoa Joe, take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning if he was to go one-on-one, and then add 66 2/3%. I got a 141 2/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at Sacrifice. I mean, brilliant.
Just, again, just the length of it and the different permutations, and just it keeps going.
I'm not sure if the math checks out.
I think the 50% chance at the start, I think that's probably fair.
Yeah. And that's just not how odds and betting works. Also, that promo, he then starts talking about how Samoa Joe is unattractive, and that women will want to look at him, and you think about Hollywood heartthrobs. They don't look like Scott Steiner. I don't know what guys are here in this depth, and he was the interviewer is a woman, says "Oh, I think Samoa Joe's cute," and he's like, "Oh, you're not a real woman. You're one of those romantics." What?
Whereas if you're a woman who wants to come home and be satisfied every night, then you come to me. I was like, okay.
It's quite well known that people who possibly have taken performance-enhancing drugs do have the old shriveled gonads. It was very obvious that when Triple H was about to have a kid or trying for a baby, that his body somehow became flabbier and less defined. It was almost as if he'd stopped taking something that would made him all muscly because it infected. But these are all theories. These are all questions. I'm not alleging or accusing anyone of anything.
I was going to say that was something that we didn't touch upon. Was it Steiner who, when he signed with with WWE, that they asked him to take a drugs test, and he said he'll take one when Triple H does?
Yeah, and then he was like, okay. So instead of taking from that, maybe we should be more egalitarian with our drugs test policy and not let the big. They were like, okay, yeah, fair, come on then, mate. Scott Steiner. Steiner's probably one of the perfect people to talk about on this pod, with it being, about me being a fat man trying to lose weight, because one of the big feuds he had throughout TNA was with fat people in general. He. Against Samoa Joe when he was in the main event Mafia Scott Steiner, which was him, Nash, Booker T, Angle, and Sting. TNA was all about bigging up the young stars. They were feuding with Samoa Joe. Scott Steiner just keeps screaming, "He's fat!" over and over again. Angle and Nash are trying to do a proper promo. It's "Oh, we'll be facing the He's fat," and it's like, "Yes, Scott, he's fat. Very good."
He's fat. He's fat. Oh, I'll make him bleed.
I'm a bit worried about encountering Scott Steiner now. He's just going to see me and want to make me bleed. And then they brought back Rick Steiner because you can't have enough of old stars. Let's get someone, the older brother of an old star. So the Steiner brothers came back to feud with the Dudleys, which was kind of a dream match, but it did not end up that way. They had a tables match, and beforehand, Scott Steiner just keeps repeating the fact that they got some fat asses. They got some fat asses. It's just like, okay, Scott, yeah, it's very good. And TNA were also one of the best. Well, I mean, best / maybe people would say worse, but for me, one of the best parts about TNA is that there was definitely points when they just did not care, and they hired these big names, and they basically just let them do whatever they wanted. So there was an episode of Impact where the main event Mafia had won control of the show, and so they literally took over all the jobs of the show. So you had Kevin Nash and Booker T on commentary. I think this was around the time Booker T was pretending to be Idi Amin. So that was always fun. And then you had Scott Steiner as the ring announcer. So he was doing stuff like, I think they just told him he was going to be in the match and just gone, you announce him, Scott. And I think that's the worst person to give a live mic to and say you can say whatever you want is Scott Steiner, because he will take that up and run with it. So,
well, you say worst, but I mean, it's also what makes it the best thing ever.
I mean, it's best for us. So, like, they have the knockouts, so the knockouts are the TNA equivalent of the divas. So the female wrestlers, but they don't want to just call them wrestlers. They have to have some kind of sexy name. So they bring out the knockouts, and I think he calls them skanks and bitches and calls all the fans trailer park trash, which is not true, because like TNA at that time was being filmed is it Universal Studios, the name of the like theme park?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They were just families on a little nice holiday. And get Scott Steiner just screaming at them. Like, fucking hell. This is not the ride I wanted. This is just horrible. And then he says Bubba Ray Dudley has diabetes. He again calls him fat. I think he says he has a saggy bottom, which is just rude. So Steiner has a lovely time.
That's it. Yeah, I was just bringing that up. He says he bills the Dudleys he hails from Dunkin' Donuts from the great state of obesity. Which, I mean,
we need to get him as a guest on this and just have him be mean to me. He got some fat. It's like, yes.
All I'm going to say is I think he's on Cameo.
Oh, is it? Ooh. That is a very intriguing prospect. Okay. Well, the thing with Cameo, I mean, I'm quite a big fan of using Cameo. There is limits, though. I think the very most I would pay on a Cameo is 50 quid.
Okay, yeah, I think Steiner will be much more than that.
Yeah, I'm going to get. The weirdest one is, I mean, this is not right. Caitlyn Jenner is like $2,000. And like, even if you're the biggest Caitlyn Jenner fan in the world, you're going to spend $2,000 to just have her say, "Happy birthday, John." Like,
rich people be cray.
Rich people do be cray. Speaking of other cray people, brings us back onto Scott Steiner. So TNA, Jeff Jarrett had the idea of exploiting the Indian market, which is what WWE are trying to do now. But TNA did it first. So they're WWE stealing an idea from TNA rather than vice versa. So we got Ring Ka King, which lasted for one series, which was sort of the Indian version of TNA, a lot of Indian homegrown stars, but they also sent over a lot of TNA stars as well to sort of be ambassadors, help the young talent grow. And who is the best possible ambassador coach you could send over? Well, it's got to be the genetic freakzilla, big Poppa Pump, Scott Steiner. Should mention as well, being British, we were talking about this, big Poppa Pump is funny to a British person because pump means fart. I prefer it if he was Big Poppa Guff.
Yeah, I think that would be a gimmick that would sell out arenas. Yeah. Just constantly walking to the ring, farting. You could get it like, the green mist You could work
But
that into everything.
it's out your bum. I mean, they gave Natalia Neidhart a farting gimmick at one point. And people say they don't treat their female superstars well. So yeah, we go to Rinka King. And if you say Scott Steiner didn't care in TNA, he especially did not care in Rinka King. So I don't know why, but he just seems to hate Indian people. Because his whole thing during Rinka King is that he will try and fight the crowd. So there's a guy on YouTube called MarkET123 who does a lot of like looking back on TNA, and he looks back on Rinka King. So this is how I see most of this footage. So I would check it out if you're interested. But he seems to just, instead of focusing on the matches, he just jumps into the crowd and starts chasing Indian people. So I don't know whether they were actual fans or plants, but either way, it's hilarious. There's the one clip of him climbing up the scaffolding trying to get at them. It's like, what are you doing, Scott?
It's just like, so, I mean, there's so much to unpack here. It's like, it looks like maybe someone shouts something at him, maybe, and that's what starts it off. Either that, or this is very much planned and there are plants. But it's that kind of happens once. You can kind of see him started to talk to the crowd. And then it's like for several weeks, he just keeps going back into the crowd and getting further and further into the crowd.
I think the first time he threw a punch, apparently someone spat at him, which is like, okay, I didn't see anything happen. Okay, you can kind of just, but then it just takes to like, it becomes part of his entrance. It's like, yeah, go into the ring, let's just jump the barricade and chase all the Indian people. There's a part in, because they put him in a tag team with Abyss. He's like a TNA mainstay. There's a part where like Abyss is in the room fighting the match, and the camera just zooms out. You just see Scott Steiner running, rampaging through this massive crowd. It's just, it's the best thing I think I've ever seen in wrestling. More people should use this gimmick of just running after fans.
Well, it's like one of those things, and like I've been to an indie show, so Lucha Britannia in East London. And it's one of the things, because it's such a small ring and such a small area, the fans are pretty much at the side of the ring. So it's really easy, and it's really, the wrestlers do go into the crowd fairly regularly. That's one thing. Scott Steiner literally going to attack people in the crowd and just kind of charging at them like a bull it's on another level.
It's like, I've not seen anything like that before in wrestling. I've not seen anything before that in life, of just a man just like charging at people and everyone running. It's amazing. I love it so much. Yeah, like I said, if you've never seen Scott Steiner in India, you've got to put that on the bucket list to just watch Scott
it's
Steiner.
the peak of his career.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, unfortunately for Scott, things didn't work out in TNA. He left, came back for another run, left again, and he fell out with Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, who were running things at the end of his second spell. Said they didn't pay him, and then he apparently threatened to shoot and kill Hulk Hogan, which got him barred from the WWE Hall of Fame. It's a weird one, the Hall of Fame, because it's like, it's the most probably subdued, respectful, like, I don't want to say classy thing they do. It's very, you suit up, you sit down, it's like, well done. There's always stuff kicking off at it. So like Scott Steiner's threatening to shoot someone. There was the guy who punched Bret Hart. Like, it's just, that is the pure sort of definition of what wrestling is. It's like they're trying to do something respectful and dignified, and it just descends into a clusterfuck.
That is wrestling.
That is wrestling. What a succinct point to finish off. Do you have any more Steiner memories you want to bring up and talk about?
No, nothing really for me. Obviously, he was a playable character in my introduction to wrestling of WCW. What was it? WCW, whatever that game that I said that I used to play. He was on that. Him and Rick, they were regular characters that I would play as. I mean, it's just, you look back at it and what a career. And, we've spent more time speaking about Meme Steiner than we have the fact that he was one of the top stars in WCW and had won loads of championships. And it's like,
we mentioned Meltzer giving him a 1-star match, but Meltzer also did it in 2003. A ranking of like best evers at that point, and he put the Steiner brothers as the second best tag team ever. So like, it does feel harsh to turn it down into a meme, but he is also very funny.
He is absolutely hilarious.
You've got to point out as well, his wrestling career started in 1984, and he had a match last year. So he's been going 36 years. So, as a sacrifice to the fans, you've got to say.
We think thank you, Scott. Please don't hunt us down.
Please don't. I mean, if you wanted to meet us, I would be semi-trepidatious. I mean, especially at the moment, with borders and everything. I think he would actually be nice. This might be a bold claim. I think he would actually be a nice guy. Like, if you sat him down, it wasn't a wrestling promo, you're just very good. I think he would be nice.
I'd be really, really interested to find out, because the stories that you read, it's really difficult to tell where Scott Steiner begins and where the character, where that ends. What is the real Scott Steiner? What is just him playing up to the crowd and playing up to the character? And I would really genuinely be interested to know what the real Scott Steiner and who the real Scott Steiner is.
Where Scott Rex Steiner starts and where Scott Steiner begins. I mean, looking at the personal life section of him on Wikipedia, it's not very long. Been married since 2000. He has 2 children, and they run a Shoney's restaurant together in Georgia. Maybe that could be a road trip for us.
Definitely. Now, all we need is one of us to learn how to drive.
Well, okay, we could hire a driver. We've got that big podcast money. Podcasting is famously a very lucrative pursuit. He's been sort of involved in a few legal snafus, but nothing he's never got in real trouble, and there's nothing that's ever seemed like it's entirely his fault. So we're sticking with, we think he is a nice man.
Yeah. Even if he had been in lots of legal trouble, I'd still say he's a nice man, just on the off chance that,
he's listening.
Yeah.
I love the idea of Scott Steiner hunting us down. Just you said something, you got a fat ass.
Yeah, we know what he'd say to you.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what he'd do to you. He'd probably call you a pencil neck geek. Was that him?
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.